Sprint interval training is one of the most powerful fitness tools we know, but many people struggle to do it safely and consistently. This rebounder move solves that problem. Hi, I am Trophy Stephie, and welcome to this video where I'm going to talk about the squat run, which is, in my opinion, the safest, most reliable way we can do sprint interval training consistently for the rest of our lives. We don't need to go to the gym. We can instead invest in a high quality piece of equipment where we can do our sprint interval training in the privacy of our own home, and we can scale and progress our sprint interval training very easily and efficiently. So let me get into this high intensity move that we can do safely and sustainably on a rebounder in the comfort of our own home, wearing whatever we want. We can shake and jiggle and wobble all over the place, and we can get it done, and we can lose weight, and we can improve our metabolic health, we can improve our insulin sensitivity, we can activate our muscles, and we can transform our body and our health and our fitness. What's great about the squat run is that we can scale it, and we can start with a squat walk, and we can strengthen our hips and knees and ankles with the squat walk / squat jog. And then we can work our way up to the squat run. And when we are doing the squat run, it is an unlimited potential for progressing that move. And I'll get into that at the end of this video. So the squat walk is simple. We bend our knees and we have our back straight and we have our core engaged, hands on the bar, and we step side to side, flat footed. So this alone is already putting that gentle but adapting resistance against the knees. So this is strengthening the knees and the ankles and the hips. The core muscles are engaged for maximum stability and for keeping us symmetrical in our movement. So what we could do in order to scale a high intensity sprint move would be we start with squat walk. And we can do this for 15, 20, 30 seconds at a time, or even several minutes a day to get our legs adapted to this movement and to get our knees and our ankles and our hips much, much stronger. Think about starting a sprint interval training program at the gym. No matter who you are, there's going to be a progression or an adaptation or a process of getting stronger and stronger, so then you eventually can do that maximum output. So it's no different here. We start with walking, and maybe we take month 1 to really get ourselves adapted to the walking movement. If I were to do this right here for 10 minutes, I'd be breaking a sweat and my legs would be like this when I got off. Wow, whoa, I am stronger. This move alone is so strengthening, and it has sculpted my legs all the way around 360. My glutes, my calves, my shins, my knees. There's not a cell in my lower body that didn't get stronger and strengthened and transformed from squat walking and doing lots of fun jumping here on this YouTube channel. But we're here to talk about sprint interval training. So the walk would be step 1, and we adapt ourselves to this walk, and then we can pick it up to a jog. So when it comes to having our feet fully connected to the mat, partially lifting or fully lifting, I think all 3 foot forms are beneficial, and we don't really need to overthink it too much in the beginning. We just need to practice this stepping motion and get the knees, ankles, and hips stronger and feeling like they're progressing in a healthy way, and we're not aggravating weaknesses. We might face weaknesses if we invest in a Cellerciser and we commit to long-term sprint interval training every week and fun jumping, cardio, flexibility work, rehabilitation work. We may face our weaknesses at first, and that's completely normal, and I experienced weaknesses too. My calves and shins and ankles, even my wrists were sore when I first started jumping. All the joints in my body were not ready for this vertical resistance, especially on such a high grade, high quality, high resistant rebounder like the Cellerciser spring rebounder, which I highly recommend for beginners and for advanced jumpers or athletes. The reason I recommend it for beginners is because even though bungee units are even more gentle for the body, we can do the most gentle movements on a Cellerciser, and then we can scale our strength and our fitness so much further than we can with elastic cords and bungee rebounders. And there is a time and a place for bungee rebounders. In fact, I own one and I do train on one, and I actually like to have both. But if I were to recommend one or the other, I would definitely recommend the one you can scale your fitness all the way up so you can get really, really, really strong, and then you just have to start very slow and patient. Any expert that is influencing you or motivating you to start doing sprint interval training would agree with me that getting yourself adapted over the course of 3 months and then being able to be super consistent is so much better than starting from day 1 and then quitting in month 3 or quitting week 2 and realizing that you don't love the way you feel when you do it because it's too high intensity and you know that there's an injury coming your way, or your joints are disagreeing with the type of sprints that are available at the gym or at home, and you don't know how to strengthen your knees and ankles. It's like we need physical therapy, we need a professional, we need a fitness trainer, we need so many things in order to become successful doing high intensity sprints or sprint interval training. We need so much education. We need to be strong like our younger selves once were. And I love that this experience of adaptation and then sustainable success, I love that it can be in the privacy of our own home, because I can't say it enough that jiggling and shaking and wobbling and being uncoordinated and needing to hire a personal trainer and doing this all in front of other people and doing it with the burden of the gym membership looming, and should I also be doing weightlifting? How do I do weightlifting? All these questions that we get, we can eliminate those questions. We can eliminate that uncertainty. We can eliminate that stress and just, in my opinion, invest in a Cellerciser spring rebounder, get some dumbbells, maybe some 10-pound, 15-pound, 20-pound dumbbells, and then we can do weightlifting, we can do sprint interval training, and we can do our flexibility and mobility work and footwork here on this high-grade steel spring system, Olympic level trampoline. And then, of course, we can use our resistance mat to recover between sets, and we can do a gentle bounce just like this. If we invest in a Cellerciser, we don't even have to bounce. We could just walk. And this alone is going to strengthen into the hip flexors and even into the pelvic floor. We always have a handlebar on our unit. We always need support, a support system, something to hold. It's not because we can't balance. It's not because we're old. It's because we need the support to progress us faster and to get us further and to give us the best results. So the third phase of the squat movement, walking, jogging, the third phase is running. So you just pick up the pace, and we can keep our feet connected to the mat, we can partially lift it, or we can fully lift it. And then we have the knee bend or the knee flexion that plays a role for sure. The squat run alone, in my opinion, is the most extraordinary move that one can do for their high intensity sprint training every single time. High intensity sprint training does not need to activate the arm muscles. It doesn't need to activate the chest and back. It needs to drive up the heart rate, and it needs to force adaptation, and it needs to challenge the body, and it needs to go in and make shifts so the body adapts and produces new hormones. And there's so many benefits to sprint interval training, and I'm thinking it doesn't have to be a bicep workout. It can be a lower body workout. It can activate the biggest muscles in our body, the legs and the glutes, and the squat run is that perfect move for you. So once you get the ankles and knees and hips strengthened up, just like you would if you were doing your sprint intervals at the gym, once you get these joints stronger, then you can do this consistently in the comfort of your home. The Cellerciser lasts virtually a lifetime, so we could potentially have our sprint interval training station in our home for the entire family to use for the rest of our lives. And we can be so consistent because the rebounder sits pretty in the living room next to the TV, and the entire family can use it, but we can also be using it for other things like flexibility and mobility and rehabilitation. A patient process would be that month 1, we really adapt ourselves to the squat walking and see just how powerful it is, see just how strengthening it will be for the hips, knees, and ankles. See how the knees and ankles respond and react. We all are going to be surprised with how they react. The calves are going to react. People have plantar fasciitis that they don't even know about, or they've got pelvic floor issues and they're concerned about that. There's so much that shows up when we get on a unit and we access or increase forces of gravity. Even when we're pressing down, we're accessing that resistance. So a whole month that we dedicate ourselves to squat walking every day, and we can do this in front of the TV, and we can practice and we can explore it. We can scale it by adding some more each week if we want, or we can dial it back if we feel too sore. But it is the most powerful walking or hiking move we can do indoors in the comfort of our own home, especially on a Cellerciser. I cannot emphasize that enough. It is so much different on a high-grade steel spring system than it is on any bungee rebounder out there. So month 2 could be where we practice squat jog intervals. And then month 3, we can practice squat run intervals. And we can feel what it feels like. We can get our legs to adapt and to recognize this movement. I don't have to be running outside. I don't have to be running on a track. I don't have to be risking injury with lots of different other forms of sprint interval training that are really the only possibility that people know of and that they think they have. These gym opportunities for sprint interval training, or if you're doing it at home, it looks like you're going to need a piece of equipment for the most part, unless you're doing something just on the ground, maybe higher impact. But if you're going to invest in a piece of equipment, this might as well be it. It's only $700 to $800. The trifold is closer to $800 and the bifold is closer to $700. They're the best investment I've ever made in my whole life. One thing that people do often when they start jumping is they execute on day 1, whether it be a 10-minute routine or a 20-minute routine. They execute and then they feel great, and then the very next day their body says, okay, thumbs up. We can do this again. But then when it can sometimes get tricky is after 3, 4, 5 days, then the joints are saying, I'm not ready for this yet. I'm not ready for 4 days in a row. I'm not ready for 5 days in a row. I could tolerate 1, 2 days, but I'm not ready for this sudden change where all of a sudden I'm going from these other forms of exercise. Maybe it's weightlifting, maybe it's yoga or Pilates or any of these other forms of exercise. And then all of a sudden I am now doing this vertical resistance training where there's a lot of G-forces being applied to the joints, specifically in the tendons, and we've got weaknesses or alignment issues that we're not aware of. And then next thing we know, we're having an injury or a setback in some way. So I did want to say that there are lots of ways that we can scale and intensify rebounding or the squat run. And I just want you to know that it is an unlimited potential. Someone could be the fittest person on this planet if they were to execute maximum efforts with any of these ways to scale the intensity of the squat run or any moves on a rebounder. Here's the list. First of all, we need the resistance to be forcing adaptation on our body. The resistance by the unit is one way to scale it. If you were going from a bungee to this Cellerciser, that would be scaling and increasing resistance. And then here on this channel, we recommend nose breathing during all fitness, including your sprint interval training. So when you can do your 5-second or your 10-second or your 20-second or your 30-second squat run with nose breathing, you will progress with your pace and intensity, and you may need to face your true fitness level and do a slower pace at first, and then long term you're going to be doing that faster pace with your mouth closed, which is proof that your fitness has scaled. So exactly how strong we are and how flexible we are and how many weaknesses we have, this is going to play a huge role with how fast we scale. So if we address our weaknesses and we can get more flexible and get stronger, then we're going to scale faster, because the stronger and more flexible and more resilient we are, that in and of itself is a way to scale our fitness. So pressing down into the mat, we can always press harder, and of course we can land into the mat and access greater G-forces. We don't do high jumping in our routines, but there is a move that we can call the high jump, where we can jump higher and we can access greater G-forces. This can bring more strengthening to our joints, to our pelvic floor, and to our bodies, to our faces, to our cells, to our organs, but also pressing down with more force, with more strength, pressing down on that mat. Okay, so have you ever heard of isometric flexing? Isometrics are when we create a tension internally. So we can scale our strength and our progress if we go into the muscles that are being activated and we create tension from within, or flex or squeeze into the muscles. For instance, if I were to do squat run and I were to be pressing deeply on the mat, and I were to be squeezing and flexing and tensing into the muscles, already I'm sweating and my legs are crying just thinking about it. That's actually what we have done here on this YouTube channel, is that we have incorporated isometric flexing into our muscles when we gently bounce. And this has transformed our bodies. And we've done it through nose breathing for the most part. We started this channel mouth breathing, and we made the wise decision to switch to nose breathing. So of course, another way to scale would be to increase the pace or the speed or the power. So pressing down is a form of power. We could be pressing down more, and this is actually scaling our progress. And we don't need to be going super fast to scale that press. But if we are mastering that press, and then we master the pace on top of it, and we can increase the pace and the press, again, the potential for strengthening is limitless. I don't think that there is a limit. The duration of the move and how long we do the move, and then how many reps we do the move, and then how many sets we do the move, how often we do this move throughout the week, throughout the month, throughout the years, and how well we recover. All of these things play a role in how much we can scale our fitness. We can be the fittest, absolute strongest sprint interval trainees if we're aware of all these ways we can scale our progress, and we start practicing and we get very consistent, especially if our fitness partner here is in our home once and for all. So the knee bend or the knee flexion plays a role, and then flexing in the legs, and we don't have to flex at first. We can just work on our walking and our jogging and our running, and then we can start to shift our foot positions around the mat. And we can do this position and do all those ways to scale, and we can, do both sides. We can do wide, we can bring it in an inch, we can bring it in an inch, we can bring it in an inch, we can have the feet together, we can have one foot in front of the other, we could be up into the balls of the feet, we can have the toes wide and out like this, and we can have the toes narrow in like this, staggered and the toes are narrow, staggered and the toes are wide. There's so many different variations, and we can do all of these scalable strategies in order to progress our fitness. The sky is the limit. The Cellerciser makes this possible because the Cellerciser is going to provide that resistance that you can rely on day in and day out, month, year, for your lifetime and for your whole family. So the Cellerciser makes a huge difference. I am affiliated with Cellerciser, but I certainly don't manufacture Cellerciser. I just happen to be lucky to start my journey on a Cellerciser, and the Cellerciser taught me how to use it for maximum performance. It gave me a feeling of safety and support with the bar, and the resistance itself showed me what was possible. It gave me the feelings in my body of what was possible. It feels like I get a weightlifting workout when I do a full body routine on this rebounder. And I will say this, we don't add weight into our hands or ankles while we jump on a Cellerciser spring rebounder. No way, Jose. We did use these IsoFlex hand massage balls. They're 5 ounces each. It's not about the weight. It's about that they're a little balloon of sand, and we use them to grip. And this allowed us to get more skillful at flexing into our upper body. And then we ditched the balls, and we were still able to flex equally as hard, if not continue to progress our flexing skills. But those balls really connect us to the ability to flex. And so those we used, but we don't use any weights when we are jumping on a Cellerciser, and we definitely don't use a weighted vest either. Some people ask about a weighted vest. So if you were to have your mini gym gym, your set of dumbbells and your Cellerciser. You could do your flexibility and mobility work. If you've got more questions about that, leave them in the comment section below. Go to our playlist section, check out our playlists. We have flexibility playlists, we have beginner workouts, we have advanced workouts, 5-minute routines, 10, 20, 30, 50, 60. We've got it all there. And our website, ijumpinstead.com. If you're familiar with our brand name, iJumpInstead, just remember that, iJumpInstead. You can check out our website. We've got links to our favorite rebounders. We've got our Instagram channel, we've got our TikTok, we have our private Facebook group, all under iJumpInstead. If you've got your dumbbells, you've got your mini gym, you've got your Cellerciser, you can have it all and more in the comfort of your own home, in the privacy of just you and your family. And if you are in an apartment, you could limit your movements to the squat walk and the squat jog. I didn't even mention this before. You could do all of the scalable strategies that I told you about without walking. You could do it bouncing, pushing and pulsing down into the mat, down bouncing. Very strengthening for the knees, ankles, and hips. Very scalable. We can flex into the legs. We can do it in a sprint fashion. It takes strength and coordination and proprioception and mind to muscle. It is fascinating how strengthening it is and how tricky it is and how unique it is and how exclusive it is. It is transformative. So that is my video for today. I really hope that you can have as much faith in the Cellerciser rebounder just from listening to what I have to say as I do, because I go to bed at night literally giddy and bubbly and excited about how strong I am and how strong my joints are and how healthy and resilient I feel from Cellercising, from jumping, from bouncing. And I'm 41 and I'm excited to be here for the long haul on a Cellerciser with my identical twin sister, who is also an instructor on this channel, because this is so sustainable and it lasts a lifetime for such an amazing low cost, $700 to $800. Thank you, thank you. That is the best price I could ever ask for. There is also an option to go on to Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist and OfferUp and Nextdoor and see if someone hasn't seen this video yet and is selling their Cellerciser rebounder. And the last thing I'll say is that Cellerciser ships worldwide. They didn't ask me to make this video. I am not a manufacturer of Cellerciser. I'm simply affiliated. So using my code, iJumpInstead, or using our links on our website, ijumpinstead.com, is an option to you, or you can go straight to Cellerciser.com and you can purchase from there. If you like this video, please give it a like and definitely subscribe if you are looking for routines on this channel. We have a membership that's available for $14.99 a month. 4 brand new routines dropping every single week, Sundays at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. They are the latest and the greatest, and we hope to see you in those classes eventually one day. Don't forget about the playlist section here on this YouTube channel, and leave a comment down below and tell me, are you gonna start doing squat, walk, squat, run intervals and start being consistent with your sprint interval journey? Let me know in the comments section. Have a fantastic rest of your day.